Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Novice class general purpose ship, the 23rd vehicle in my Wimpomania line of vehicles, and the 6th of the Wimpomania segment ships. My name is Wimp, and I am the chief designer, chief builder, chief architect, and chief dumbass behind the Novice class project. So there are a couple of things to get out of the way before I take you on a tour of this ship. The first is that for those who are familiar with my tour videos will know that I refer to parts of the video as segments. Well, as I just mentioned, this is a segment ship. So the wider bits of the ship here that come out by one block I consider segments, and so to avoid any confusion I shall be referring to those parts of the ship that are wider as segments, but I will be referring to parts of the video that I normally would refer to as segments as sections instead. Now you will notice that I didn't say update, and I'm not going to show you any original vehicles. So this is the 6th of the segment ships, and in the tour videos for the other 5 I show you the original segment ships and tell you the story about the origin of the segment ships, which goes back to an old game called Star Maid. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to leave that out for this tour, so if you are interested in the origins of the segment ships, please feel free to go check out one of the other videos for the other 5 segment ships. Now, these segment ships have a full modular construction, so I have up at the construction area up there, I have a kit that I use for making these segment ships, and they involve putting together fully complete bits. So each segment is fully complete, and the connectors between the segments, the nacelles that hold the thrusters are all complete as well, and then I just copy and paste them together to make a full ship. Cockpit included. So if you would like to see the kit that I use, I will go up to the construction area at the end of the video in the other info bit, so stick around if you're interested. Okay, with all that out the way then, let's start the tour of the Novice class, starting with its role and its task equipment. Okay, so as I said at the beginning, this is a general purpose ship. Now, if you have a look at my Wimpo Manufacturing Terms, Definitions and Conventions guide, and you scroll to near the bottom, here we go, that was a lucky stop place. So general purpose is defined as a vehicle that can do a little bit of everything, mostly, but only to a limited degree. Okay. So it can sort of do a bit of everything. So it can be a bit of an explorer, it can be a bit of a cargo ship, it can be a bit of a transporter, it can do a little bit of ground attack. The only thing really it can't do, I think, is ship-to-ship combat, really. So to facilitate the task of being... Oh, and mining. So to facilitate the task of being multi-purpose... so she has a couple of mining lasers for mining. She has plenty of place to park SVs and HVs, including an internal garage bay segment. She also has a cargo segment with 4 320 KSU containers, one of which is ore and wood for the lasers. She also has a gunship module that comes with 4 cannon turrets on the side, as well as a bit of armor, and that's for ground attack. She also has a farm with some grow plots to help facilitate its exploration, so it can stay out for longer, grow its own food. So there we go, that's what it does and what it uses to do it. Okay, so that's the end of... Oh, I may have said segment, didn't I? Oh, well. Right, so that'll be the end of that section. The next section is going to be its propulsion, handling and lift capacity. As usual with my tours, I'm going to leave it on the ground so that we don't have to put up with the noise of its lift thrusters constantly trying to keep it in the air. That does mean, however, that we need to go underground to look at the bottom, so we'll have to put up with bits of the ground being visible when we do, but never mind. So, for forward propulsion, as you can see, it has 2 large thrusters on by default. For braking and reverse, she has 8 small jet thrusters, 4 in the front of each of the aft nacelles, as well as 8 medium thrusters, again 4 in the front of each of the forward nacelles. For lateral thrust, she has 8 small jets, all of which are in the side of the larger aft nacelles, as well as 7 medium and 3 small thrusters, 4 of which are the mediums are in the side of the smaller forward nacelles. The rest are all at the front here as part of the thruster rings. For descent, she has 18 medium thrusters. As you can see, there are 6 at the front, 2 in each thruster ring, 1 on each side. There's also a couple on the top of each of the forward nacelles, and another 8, 4 in the top of each of the aft nacelles, there and there. And then for lift, for ascent thrusters, she has 20 small jet thrusters, which are dotted about, along with 18 mediums. I'm lost there. Oh, those are max lift then. Okay, so there's a couple of mediums there. There's also one on at least 6 of the arms. The ones right next to the aft nacelles I didn't bother, because it would have covered up, it would have blocked one of the thrusters. And then of course some at the front as part of the thruster rings again. So, the ones that are off, the ship has a max lift function which turns on other thrusters. So there are 8 more small jet thrusters and 4 mediums. 4 of the jet thrusters are there. The other 4 were the ones at the back of the nacelles. Yes, those 2. And then the mediums, there's 2 on each of the bottom nacelle. Oh, and that's it, because there's only 4. Yes. And then, as you probably saw in the menu, there is an ahead full function that turns on the other forward large thrusters on the backs of the large nacelles. Okay. Right, its mobility, starting with its maneuverability, it'll accelerate forwards at 74 meters per second squared. This is with max lift and ahead full off. It'll reverse at 51. It'll do 52 meters per second squared sideways, 53 in descent, and 121 in lift. Right, so ahead full will increase the acceleration from 74 to 148. Makes sense, it's double. And max lift will increase the lift from 121, I think it was, to 160. Yes, there we go. Right, as for its agility, so with max lift and ahead full off, its yaw is 25 degrees per second, pitch is 31, and roll is 105. So with max lift on, the pitch and roll will change from 31 to 37 and from 105 to 116. And then with a head full on, its yaw will change. What was it? 25 24 to 27. I don't think it goes up by much, does it? 25 to 27. No, it doesn't go up by a lot at all. So there we go. For the sake of saving time, I'm not going to bother giving it a test flight, but I'm sure most of you can figure out from those stats, and I mean the fact that it's a mile long, it's not particularly agile. Yeah, it kind of flies a bit like a bus, but then it is that long. Other things to note, of course, is that it has a warp drive and it has no RCSs. Oh, and its lift capacities, I very nearly forgot. So it can operate in up to 12.3 G with max lift off. That is, of course, dry weight with nothing in it. Of course, when you start filling up the containers and carrying other vehicles around with it, that will, of course, change. But that's what it can do out the box, as it were. And with max lift on, it will lift 23.1 kilotons in 4G. And the ship itself is just under 5.7. There is, of course, as is usual with my builds, a heads-up display on the cockpit, which we will look at later on, that explains what it can lift and where. Right, that'll be the end of that section then. So the next section is going to be its power, fuel and air. So as usual with my tour videos, I'm going to tell you about this stuff now and then show you where it all is later on, unless I forget. So, power is generated by 6 large Tier 1 generators. It has a pentaxid tank, 12 large Tier 3, 6 medium Tier 2, and 2 small Tier 1 fuel tanks. It has 24 small O2 tanks, 17 ventilators, 4 O2 stations, and it is fully compartmentalized. For anyone who cares, it has 12 compartments. Right, that'll be the end of that section. So the next section is going to be its weapons, defences and construction. Right, as for weapons, it has the maximum allowed of 8 sentry turrets, which I have set to what I consider to be my point defence configuration, which will target ground troops and drones, excluding predators, as well as the weaponry of small vessels. It also has 4 cannon turrets, which come set to the ground attack configuration, which will attack the weaponry of bases and HVs. Now, of course, that's just the way they come out of the factory. That doesn't mean that's the way you have to leave them. And again, the cannon turrets are on this side, on the starboard side, attached to the gunship segment there. Defences, she does have a shield generator. It's only a Tier 1, and again it's in the gunship segment, sorry. It doesn't really have much in the way of armour, except that around the core, which is underneath this slope that you use to get up onto the aftmost landing pad there, on top of the engineering segment. So the core, as I said, is under this slope. And then surrounding the core on 5 of the 6 sides is hardened steel. The 6th side is taken up by that Wi-Fi there, the wireless connector. The rest of this slope is made up of steel. Now, unfortunately, I would normally do an unpainted one so that you can see what blocks the ship is made of. There we go, that's what I was trying to get out. Unfortunately, as I said, these segment ships are built with completely finished modules that I then slap together. So to show you an unpainted one, unfortunately that would mean I would have to go round removing every colour and texture with the replace tool on every single example of a variation of a colour and a texture, which would obviously take a long time and I couldn't be bothered, so we'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. So the ship does have a structural frame As usual with my builds, or as usual with my ships I should say, the structural frame on this is hardened steel, and it's basically that this layer of blocks all the way around. There are some exceptions, for example where I needed to get these doors, the sort of frame goes up and over. However, the frame also goes around this landing pad. It's the outermost blocks of them basically, and along there as well. Also the structural frame, sorry, the bottom row of all of these are hardened steel, part of the structural frame as well. The structural frame also connects from top to bottom at the beginning and end of each segment, as well as from side to side in the same place. So it would be under there. Can I show you a better one? Maybe here? Ish, yeah. Some of this is hardened steel as well, as part of the frame. Each nacelle has a bit of a frame as well, which sort of runs rings around it in various places. The larger thrusters at the back, larger nacelles, sorry, at the back are the same, except it has slightly more rings of structural frame around it. Right. There is only a small amount of carbon composite on it. The trims on these pads are carbon composite. Likewise there. Also, these pretend water tanks at the front are carbon composite, and all of the illuminated orientation panels are. This is carbon composite. It's not really I was going to say protecting the laser drills, but no, housing the laser drills will do. Other than that, it's all steel. Oh, windows. It's all normal windows. It's not armoured or heavy. Oh, except for, yeah, the part that is the windows that are part of the armour panels attached to the gunship segment are armoured, but whatever. Okay, that'll be the end. Is it the end? No. With these segment ships, I also go through the modules that this segment ship is made from. So this Novice class has an engineering segment at the back, which of course houses its warp drive, its 4 of its large tier 1 generators. The pentaxid tank is in there. Most of the fuel is in there. The CPU extenders are in there, as well as the field repair station and the control console for the repair device up there on that pad is all in there. Oh, and access into the nacelles. Built into that engineering segment, as you can see, is also this top pad and the slope and ramp leading up to it. There are on each side a double long, double wide, I call them, thruster nacelles, and that's simply because, as you can probably see, they are 2 segments long, plus the connector in between those 2 segments. And then when we compare it to these nacelles at the front, you'll see it's double wide as well. This only fits 4 thrusters, whereas this, well, it would fit 8. I did remove some because those point directly into that, and I didn't like that. I mean, you could argue that these do too, but I was more okay with that than the ones on the inboard. So that's why they're double long, double wide. The connector in between that segment and that one is filled with more fuel tanks to improve its range. This segment is a cargo segment that has the 4 320 KSU containers, one of which is the Aurum Wood. It also has a Wi-Fi and some large cargo boxes too. Oh, and those extra lift thrusters to help lift the weight of whatever's in those containers. Then we have a foyer lock connector, which is where you go in and out of the ship, including up onto the top. Foyer lock, in case anyone doesn't know, is a play on the words foyer or foyer, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and airlock. So it's a foyer lock because it acts as a foyer to the ship and an airlock to get in and out. So you use it as a foyer to access other areas of the ship. Then we have the gunship segment, which, as you can see, has some ramps up to the flat top pad on top, but only on the port side. On the starboard side, as I've pointed out already, is the ground attack cannon turrets. In the gunship segment is a large ammo box and a shield generator, plus 2 large tier 1 power generators to help power the shield. So the next connector is a production connector that has a little bit of storage, but it also has a small and a large constructor and an armor and small arms repair station. Then we have a farm segment here with grow plots in it, and obviously grow lights, and some storage for seeds and food. Attached to that, as you can see, are some single nacelles, as I call them, to help with maneuverability and lift. Right, the connector in front of that is a medical connector with the 4 medical devices, as well as a pretend patient bed and a toilet and shower for the patient. The next segment along is the garage bay segment for housing some smaller HVs internally. Nothing else in there, no. Next connector along is another foyer lock. So this foyer lock is exactly the same as the foyer lock at the back, except this one has a teleporter in it. You can only have 1 per ship, so it's in there rather than in there. Oh, and attached to all the connectors, as you can see, are these arms, most of which have turrets. You probably saw the ones that don't. That's because I wanted to keep it device limit compliant, but there is space for 2 more sentry turrets if you've got device limits turned off. And most of them have a lift thruster on the bottom of the arms as well, like I said, except for this one at the back and the one that's actually attached to the nacelles at the back. Right, the last segment is the habitation segment, where the living space is. So there's a bit of a lounge, a bit of a diner, a bit of a kitchenette, and a couple of bedrooms with head and shower. As you can also see, there's ramps up to the top flat top pad that's on top, where the top is. Then we have a equipment ring. That's this column of blocks, obviously runs from side to side, that has some equipment in it, including the detector, the 4 Wi-Fi, and a couple of fuel tanks. Oh, and a gravity generator. Then there are 3 thruster rings. So this is 1 thruster ring here. That is obviously called that because it contains lots of thrusters and it's sort of ring shaped. And then it has 2 more of them. Attached to this side of the equipment ring is the laser drills. I didn't do it on both sides because this side has the cannon turrets, so I wanted to distribute the weight slightly. And then finally at the front we have a large cockpit that is designed for 4 people. Okay, that'll be the end of that section then. So the next section is going to be its resource gathering, production and storage. So resource gathering, as I just said, it has 2 laser drills at the front here on the port side only. Production, it has 2 small and 1 large constructor. Obviously you can upgrade the large to an advanced if you like. It also has a food processor and 36 grow plots in the farm segment here. Oh, and they're in groups of 9, and each group of 9 has a grow light. As for storage, it has a single 120k ammo container plus 8k SU ammo containers, so that's just the controller with no extensions. Basically, there's 2 in each of the connectors. The exception is that in the medical one there is none. And did I reduce... No, I didn't. I did originally plan to do only 1 in the fuel connector, but then I went back to having 2. There's where my confusion came from. So that's the ammo. As for its cargo, well, as I said, it has 4 320k containers in the cargo segment here. One of those is ore and wood. I'll show you later, actually. It also has 2 160k cargo containers that are part of the habitation segment, and there's a single 48k cargo controller, which is part of the production connector even, which is that one there, I think it was. Then it has 8 large and 8 small cargo boxes. It has 2 8k SU water tanks, which of course are just cargo containers that I call water tanks for immersion. It also has 4 armor lockers, 5 large fridges, and 4 miscellaneous storages. So that'll be the closets in the living area and the kind of med gel tanks that I put on top of the medic stations. Right, that'll be the end of that section. So the next section is going to be its interior layout and any remaining devices. So as usual then, we shall start with the any remaining devices on the outside of the ship, since that's where we are already. Landing gear, it has some. Oh, get out the floor, thank you. It has a lot. I think maybe the cockpit could have done with 1, but, you know, I'm okay with it. Then it has a couple of headlights. Yeah, and they do point forward. They're not diagonally pointing. They don't point that way. Speaking of lights, it does come fully flight regulation lighting compliant, as do most of my ships, if not all of them. So the first ones we'll talk about is the ones we can already see going. So these are the running lights. You can see slowly pulsing on and off here, and they are to let any observer know that the ship is powered. Then we have 2 flavors of orientation lights. The first is these illuminated orientation panels that you can see dotted around, and these act as the ship's formation lights for other ships to fly in formation with it. The second flavor is the navigation lights that are supposed to show any observer in which direction the ship is either heading or pointing. You could argue that the illuminated orient panels do that as well, but whatever. Orientation, I think I misspoke there. So the illuminated orientation panels are red on the port side, they are white on the stern, and they are green on the starboard side, but they are also yellow on the ventral side. The navigation lights are the same, so red on the port, white on the stern, and green on the starboard. I will show you them turned on later on, but there is no yellow navigation lights on the bottom. However, there are some yellow anti-collision beacons, so I'm going to use those to talk about now the 2 flavors of anti-collision lights. So there's the anti-collision beacons that come on automatically, assuming that you use this main propulsion switch. And as I've said already, they are yellow on the ventral side and they are red on the top. Again, you will see those turned on later on. And the idea of those is to let any observer know that the thrusters are powered and so it could move at any moment. Then there are the flight strobes, and these are the bright white flashing lights you see on the wingtips of planes. The idea of those is to allow for visual acquisition at a distance. As I always say, that doesn't necessarily translate very well into the game, because quite often the game will render the ship before the lights, but I do it for realism. And again, you'll see those turned on later on. Nothing else really to talk about other than the ingress point indicator lights. These are the light green lights you can see at some of the doors. I haven't bothered putting them on the top ways in. I did think about it and decided against it because I sort of thought they are quite obvious. Whereas the ones down the side, you kind of lose them in amongst all the other detailing, I suppose. So if you're looking for a way in, look for the light green lights. Which way should we work? Oh, as you can probably tell, because you've been seeing them moving around, as you've seen them moving as I've been moving around. There we go. But all of the ramps are on motion sensors, as well as some of the lights that are around the entry points and the ramps. Sometimes not. This one doesn't have any lights, but sometimes they do. This one has a spotlight in the middle. Oh yeah, that's right. And likewise the ones up onto the top, motion sensor controlled. Okay, I'm going to go in through the aft foyer lock. Yeah. Right, this door, automatic. Here's the aft foyer lock. As you can see, there's some stuff in here. O2 in the ceiling, the 2 ammo containers that I said are in each of the connectors. Above that ventilator is one of the many gravity generators sat on top of it. As you can see, like I said, there's some EVA equipment in here as well. That's what I was talking about as a pretend medgel tank that supposedly feeds the medic station for when you respawn. There's the elevator up on top. We're going to go backwards first. So here is the cargo segment. As I said, this is the one that is ore and wood, and then 3 normal cargo containers. Again, all 4 of these are 320s. Actually, there is slightly more extensions than is required for 320. And I did that just because I didn't know what else to put in the space if I'd have left them as the exact amount they needed. So if you do take a little bit of damage, you won't lose everything in the containers. So in the ceiling, as you can see, are more large cargo boxes. Aside from that, you might be able to make it out there. There is also a Wi-Fi connector. And there's some large cargo boxes that go either side of that as well. Moving back then, we have the fuel store connector. So fuel in here. Again, there's a gravity generator above the ventilator there. There's the 2 ammo containers. And just a lot of fuel. Here is the engineering segment. This door is manual, even though it says automatic when you pointed it. I've set it to manual. I mean, I've never actually explained this, I don't think. I have a manual doors signal that I have set to 0 all 0, which means it'll always stay closed unless you operate it yourself. Might as well leave it open. We need to go back out. So here's the engineering segment. As you can see, tier 4 CPU extenders there and there. Field repair station, the console for the repair device on top. Warp drive and pentaxid tank. 2 of the large tier 1 generators. Another 2 are over here. Through these orange shutters is access to the large thruster nacelles at the back. Why is that doing that? How bizarre. It's almost like there's more than one thruster in that space. That's weird, and it's Z fighting, I think it's called. Okay, let's leave here then and go forward again. Right, back in the foyer lock, here's the gunship segment. So here we have a small constructor for manufacturing ammo. That, I believe, yes, correct, I have set up to draw out of the ore container and then output into this ammo container here, which is the 120k one I mentioned earlier. So there's one of the other large tier 1 generators, and there's the final one over there. And here is the tier 1 shield generator. So unfortunately, in order to get the ramps to work, the the motion sensor fields do sort of come into here. I apologize, but you know, for the sake of functionality, I had to kind of put up with it. Okay, that's all that's in here then. So moving forward is the production connector. So another small constructor. Another the large constructor there as well. They output into there. No, the large one outputs into there. The small one actually outputs into this cargo box here. I sort of thought that this you would manufacture your small arms ammo in there. There is of course a small arms and armor repair station. Again, O2 and ammo in the ceiling, and above the ventilator is again a gravity generator, another small one. So here we have the horticultural farm segment where all the grow plots are. In all four corners is a large fridge and a cargo box. The levers on the ceiling control each of the grow lights, and some orange ones that are supposed to simulate daylight. Pretend. Alright, so that's that in here. Moving forward is the medical connector. So here we have the 4 medical devices. Like I said, a patient bed. There are window shutters up at the windows. In case you're wondering what these doors are for, that actually is a window. Ta-da. Okay. Oh, and the patient also has its own or their own ablutions, shower and head. Moving forward is the garage bay. Yes, that's right. So in here, like I said earlier, you can store a few small HVs if you want to carry some internally, or SVs. I mean, why not? So nothing else in here really to talk about other than, I mean, as you can probably guess, with all of the builds, motion sensors and lights being controlled by them. The 4 foyer lock is here. As I said earlier, this foyer lock is the same as the aft one, except the teleporter is in this front one. Teleporter is of course on the motion sensor up there. Not that it really matters, but the one difference between the 4 and the aft foyer lock is the position of this intercom panel. Okay, moving forward, we move into the habitation segment. As I said, this place has 2 bedrooms, each with a double bunk, each also with a shower and a head. There's the, as I mentioned earlier, the pretend water tanks, which is just a 8KSU cargo container controller. So we have a dining area. The switches for the lights are on the ceiling, by the way. Here is the kitchenette with a food processor and a large fridge. Over here is a lounge. Now this I consider to be my long-range comms panel. So the idea of this little bit is you would come here to phone home. Who are you going to call? Right. Oh, and in the ceiling here is the 260 KSU cargo containers that are part of the habitation segment. Moving forward, we have the large cockpit, although before we get there, we have the equipment ring. Let's go into that. As you can see, fuel tanks, more of them. There's the wireless connector below that fuel tank. There's the detector below that one. And then above us, just sat on top of that panel, is the last of the gravity generators. As I mentioned earlier, there is also 3 thruster rings, so that makes up the rest of this corridor, 1, 2 and 3. That of course is the back wall of the cockpit. Not much in the cockpit, as I've said in the tours for the other segment ships. I've left them blank so that you can put in any equipment that you feel you need, rather than forcing you to accept whatever's there, or of course, you know, multi-tooling them up. And there is seating in here for 4. That's another intercom panel, by the way. Obviously it doesn't do anything, but that's what I think is the panel for communicating around inside the ship. Seating for 4, including a pilot and a co-pilot seat, and as usual the ship has some heads-up displays for the people flying. The one in the middle that both seats can see is the lift performance, which can show you which shows you what the ship can lift on top of itself, as well as itself. So it can lift itself plus that much in those listed Gs, those listed environments, and of course what the power save does. And then the one on the sides of each of the seats that pilot the ship has the device groups and signal shortcuts listed, and I'm going to use that heads-up display now to segue into the next section, which is going to be the shortcuts and signals. Okay, as usual with my builds, please do not auto group, because the custom device group shortcuts rely on the custom device groups to run. Of course, if you are willing to sort out the mess it makes by auto grouping, then please feel free. If you don't want to deal with that, then don't, obviously. So the device group column, as usual, starts with main propulsion. As I showed you earlier, that turns on the default thrusters, as I called them, as well as the anti-collision beacons. As I said, they are flashing red on top, and there are quite a few dotted around. Not there. And then yellow on bottom. Yeah. And another one there, and some more in front, or near the front. The next one down is max lift. That'll turn on the additional lift thrusters that I pointed out earlier on. So it was those 2 and those, and a couple of the mediums here. And finally, as I showed you earlier, the ahead full, it will turn on the inboard 2 large thrusters at the backs of the nacelles. The next one down that's actually in use is the drills, etc. That will of course extend the laser drills and turn on the hazard beacons. The next one down loud is production and repair, or at least it would be if you could put an ampersand in the device group shortcuts, because although you can put an ampersand over here, you can't over there for some reason. So what that'll do, the production and repair, is it'll turn off or on all of the constructors, the food processor, and any of the repair things that can be turned on and off. So I think the pad can and its console can't. The field repair station can, but the repair station can't, yes. So if you leave any of those on accidentally, you can turn them off. So the next one down is artificial gravity, which of course turns on and off all of the gravity generators. So if you are in a gravity well, either a natural one like a planet or an artificial one like a space station, you can save some power by turning them off. And then finally is air vents. Now, in case this is the first tour of mine you've seen, I will cover this, but in case it isn't, I'm going to try and do it as quickly as I can, so you don't have to sit through a lengthy explanation again. So if we have a look at power left and we turn oxygen off, that doesn't change, because although it's no longer blowing air into the ship, the ventilators themselves are still powered. So if we watch that and turn air vents off, you'll see we can save some power. So if you are in a breathable atmosphere, you can save them some fuel. Moving on then to the signals column. As usual, the top one is power save. There is, as I pointed out earlier, a heads-up display in the cockpit that shows what that does. But basically, it'll turn off all of the motion sensors and levers, except for the ones that HVs would need to use to get in and out or on and off of the ship. So all of these will still be powered. It'll also turn off all of the LCD. Oh, I forgot about the nameplate and registries, didn't I, earlier on? I'll have to cover it in the other info bit at the back. But basically, this is supposed to be its registry number. Think Star Trek NCC 1701. It's similar to that. And the idea is that this is supposed to be... Oh, I'll cover it at the end. Okay. And there are nameplates for you to put the name of the ship on. Okay, so it'll turn those off. Turning power save on will turn those off, as well as the heads-up displays and all of these labels going between the connectors and segments as well. And it'll turn off all of the Wi-Fi's as well, all of the wireless connection blocks. Okay, the next signal down is its weapons and shields. That will of course turn on all of the turrets and the shield generator, assuming of course it's got power. Aye, nice and easy. Next two down in use is the nav lights and flight strobes. So further back, as I pointed out earlier, the nav lights are red on the port side. They are white on the stern, and they are green on the starboard side. And then the flight strobes are the fast blinking bright whites you can see blinking away there. The next one down is headlights. So because there are other spotlight blocks dotted around the ship, including that one I just looked at and these two at the back here, I've given you a headlights switch so that you can turn on just the ones at the front. And then finally is close hatches. So into the aft thruster nacelles, as I showed you earlier, there's a way in from the engineering. There is also these doors in between the outer hull and the thruster nacelle themselves that you can use to jetpack in as well. So if you notice, if you're in the cockpit seat and you notice that one of them is open, you can flick the switch and it'll close any of them that's open, and it'll only close them, it won't open them again. Ooh. Yeah. Okay, that'll be the end of that section then. So the next section is going to be its CPU and upgrading. Okay, I'll show this again in case anyone is skipping around in the video. The core is at the stern underneath the slope here. The CPU extenders are in the front of the engineering segment. The astute among you will notice these are tier 4. The ship itself uses just over 2 million of the 10 million you are allowed. As for upgrading, so there is no inbuilt upgrade path, so there's no slots earmarked for anything specific, except for these brownish blocks here are intended for more sentry turrets, assuming of course that the end user has device limits turned off, because you're only allowed 8 of them and there is already 4 down each side. There is, however, some space to do stuff with. For example, in each of the nacelles there's a whole bunch of empty space for you to put stuff. The smaller 4 nacelles, 4 as in forward, are also hollow. There's not as much space, and there isn't actually a hatch to get in. because they're attached to the farm, and I didn't think it made sense for the farm to have access into an engineering sort of area. So just dig out a block there maybe, and you can then get in. Down there as well would be good. And of course, as I've said with all of these segment ships, they're only very lightly armed anyway, so their primary armament is the sentry guns, really. So if you can find spots on the outer hull to slap any extra turrets, by all means feel free. For example, this bit here, if you were to remove the railings, is suspiciously a nice size for a full-size turret there. There's also a few places like that on top of the connectors, maybe. There, you could pop one. Yeah, maybe not so much as some of the other ships, but even still. Yeah, so if you don't mind either taking up like a throughway here, where you would have to get to this bit via only the back, then by all means feel free to put some turrets up here and up here, if you don't mind, you know, jetpacking over them or finding some other way to walk. Righto, that'll be the end of that section. So the next and last section then is any other info. Righto, I'll talk about these now then, since I forgot to talk about them during the any remaining devices bit. So we have registration displays dotted around. These are the main registries. So so WM simply stands for Wimpomania, the line to which this ship belongs. 23, of course, because it's the 23rd vehicle in that line. And then the number symbols here, you are supposed to replace those with the number of which yours is. So if you can be bothered, you would look on the workshop, see how many people are subscribed to it, and then add one. And you add one because I have one and I'm not subscribed to it. And then assuming, of course, you were the last person to subscribe to the ship, that's the number you would put here. Of course, if you can't be bothered to do that, you're more than welcome to leave it as the number symbols, or change it to a number that means something to you, your house number, your credit card PIN, your date of birth, whatever. Then we have the class and registry displays. So this contains the full registry, and the full registry includes the main, but it includes some other info as well. So WMF simply stands for Wimpo Manufacturing. The GPS is clearly general purpose ship, the classification or type that the ship is, and then of course the class, it's a novice class. And then we have some name displays. So of course, like usual, you can name the ship whatever you want. Boaty McBoatface, for example. As is usual, the LCD display projectors are usually obvious. There's certainly, so in places where there might be more than one, that's a bad example here. Yeah, so it's probably obvious that that one is that one rather than that one, because that one, I'm sure you can guess, isn't that one. Oh, and in the control panel, of course, you can name the ship again as well. As I usually say, the ISV Novice would technically be mine, because the class is named after the first ship of the class. However, if you want to just name it the ISV Novice and 23001, no one's going to know or care. Right, there is no choice of primary colours like I do with some of the ships, especially if they're role specific. So an explorer, I might give you a white, and a cargo ship might be a brown. A mining ship might be an orange, and a combat ship there might be something grey or green. But I have not done that with this ship. Right then, I'm going to try and talk about my damage texture real quick. So if you lose a block, I've painted all of the hidden surfaces of the blocks like that, which, in case you care, is that texture in that colour. And I do that because it looks like smouldering metal. To me, in my opinion, and it certainly looks more like damage than that does. Again, in my opinion. So that's why I do that. The naming convention of the Wimpomania line of ships, I have explained in other videos, but I might as well in case it's the first that you've seen. So I consider myself to be a noob at building, and so noob, N-O-O-B, and so I call all of my Wimpomania ships words that either mean someone who is new at something, so synonyms of newbie, N-E-W-B-I-E, or words that mean someone who is the first at something, which is why you end up with things like novice and apprentice and recruit and beginner and cadet and freshman, for example. Blinkies, I shall talk about those really quick. If you don't like me flashing at you, you shouldn't be peeping through my bedroom window. So, the nav lights and flight strobes are of course easy to manage, you just don't turn them on. Ooh. So the running lights are the ones that are going automatically. If you don't like those, you scroll all the way to the bottom of my custom device groups and you're looking for the prefix reg lights. The running lights, you simply deactivate the entire group and then that's it, they'll never come on again. The flight strobes, if you are using this thruster switch to turn on and off all of the thrusters all at the same time, then you don't need to worry. However, if you are using this switch because you don't want, as far as I understand, having all of the thrusters on will use more fuel, even if you're just operating within the same environment. So if you are doing that and you're using this switch and you don't like the flashy flashes that come on with it, again, you need to scroll to the bottom of the device groups. You're looking for the prefix reg lights. You're looking for anti-collision. If they are active, deactivate them, and then you remove the shortcut. And then they will never come on again either. Okay, so as promised, I'm going to go up to the construction area and show you the modular kit I used to build this. I'm going to do it really quickly. So if you would like to see a fuller explanation of the ship kit, then you would need to check out one of the other segment ships. So the segment ships are WM17, 18, 19, 20, 21 and 22. So if you're wanting a fuller explanation of the ship kit, go find one of those ships. Anyway, right, I'll see you up there. Okay, so here we are then, and here's the ship kit that I use for all of the segment ships. In fact, some of the segment ships are still here for me to refer back to. There's the Novice. So, what shall I talk about? Like I said, if you want a full explanation, you'll have to watch another video because I'm running short on time. But basically, as I said earlier, these are all pre-painted. It looks like it's run out of power. It has. There we go. Other than the engineering segment, none of the other segments come with a top on top. Except for the farm, because the top of the farm includes the kind of big glass windows. So each of these segments, I will choose one of these tops to put on. There's either a flat top pad with side access slopes, a nothing lid, and then the top of the cargo container segments. There is a blank one, a blank segment, and a blank connector. Alright. And 4 different cockpits that go on the front of them, of the ships. Here's a better view of the thruster ring. And here's a better view of the equipment ring with the, as I said, the drill lasers. Although, obviously, on the Novice, they're only on one side. There is, of course, the gunship segment that's also part of it. In fact, other than the So the survival segment is very similar to the habitation segment, except it also has a bit of a production area and a large cargo container. The only thing is it only houses 2 people rather than 4. But other than not one of these, I think the Novice class actually has one of each of these. Yeah, it does. One of each segment. One of each connector as well. No, it doesn't have a cargo connector, and it doesn't have a habitation connector. No. Oh, and doesn't have a foyer, the B variant of the foyer lock that has a boarding ramp on the bottom rather than side ramps. So, as I've said in all the other videos, I'm not planning to release this ship kit because I don't want to force anyone to have to group everything in my custom device groups. Now, if you are willing to do that, or you're willing to auto group and then fix whatever issues that creates over here in the device group shortcuts and the signal shortcuts, by all means let me know and I will consider releasing it. The other alternative is you let me know which of the connectors and segments and cockpit you want on your ship. You give me a class name and I build it for you. Or, of course, you can say, I would like a variation of, let's say the... Where is it? Have I got it out? Yeah, let's say you wanted a variant of the fledgling miner, except you wanted a single-person cockpit on the front, and you wanted here, instead of this production area, you wanted a medical connector instead, then let me know and I'll do a variant. That kind of thing. Aye. So there we go. That's the ship kit that I used to build all of the segment ships. Okay, so that'll be the end of the tour of the Novice class general purpose ship. Thank you for taking an interest in it. I hope you get some use out of it, and hopefully I will see you in another video for a different build. So thank you again, and goodbye.